You know that feeling when you're completely alone, vulnerable, and scared. And then out of nowhere, help arrives in the most unexpected form? What I'm about to share with you will restore your faith in humanity. This is a true story about a struggling mother, 3 thugs who picked the wrong victim, and a group of leather-clad strangers who changed everything in seconds. Stay with me, because what happened at that gas station will give you chills. Picture this scene in your mind. It's late afternoon and the sun is beating down mercilessly on a tiny gas station somewhere off the main highway. The air is thick with the smell of gasoline mixed with grease from a nearby restaurant. Cars pull in and out, people barely making eye contact as they pump their gas and disappear back into their own worlds. Just another ordinary day in a forgettable town. But ordinary days can transform into extraordinary moments when you least expect it. At pump number 4 stands a woman. Let's call her Marissa. She's in her early 30s, but life has aged her beyond her years. Her minivan, that old faithful beast that's seen better days, sits there shaking slightly as the engine idles. You can hear it struggling, like it's begging for mercy. Marissa knows that sound well. Everything in her life feels like it's barely holding on. Now, before we go any deeper into what's about to unfold, I need you to do something for me. If you believe that good people still exist, that kindness isn't dead, and that sometimes angels wear leather jackets instead of white robes, hit that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to remember that hope is real. And subscribe, because we're building a community here that refuses to let cynicism win. Your support means everything. It helps us keep sharing these stories that prove humanity hasn't lost its soul. Alright, back to Marissa. Her day had been absolutely brutal. You know those days where everything goes wrong? Where you feel like the universe has personally decided to test every ounce of strength you have left? That was her day. She'd worked a double shift at the diner where she waitresses. The tips were terrible. Her paycheck, when it finally came, was short again because of some accounting error that nobody seemed interested in fixing. And that morning, her 8-year-old son had handed her a school supply list that might as well have been a mortgage payment. Pencils, notebooks, folders, calculators. It all adds up when you're counting every single peso. Her van was running on fumes, literally. She'd been watching that fuel gauge drop all day, praying she'd make it to payday before it hit empty. But here she was, scraping together coins from the bottom of her purse, from the cup holder, from that little pocket in her wallet where emergency money used to live before emergencies became everyday occurrences. She managed to pull together just enough for a few liters of gas. Enough to get her home. Enough to get her son to school tomorrow. Enough to make it to her next shift. That's how she lived now. Enough to enough to enough. If you've ever been there, you know that weight. That constant calculation. That exhaustion that sits in your bones. Marissa's face told her story. Young, yes, but carved with worry lines that shouldn't belong to someone her age. Yet in her eyes there was still something burning. That fierce mother fire that refuses to go out no matter how hard the wind blows. She wasn't going to quit. Not for herself, and definitely not for her boy waiting at home. She's standing there at the pump, hands shaking slightly as she counts coins when 3 men emerge from the convenience store. You know the type immediately. Loud voices. Swagger that takes up too much space. Tattoos covering their arms, not the artistic kind, the prison kind. They're laughing about something, tossing trash on the ground like the world is their personal dumping site. They reek of trouble and cheap cologne. They're not from around here. They're passing through, looking for entertainment, looking for someone to make themselves feel big by making someone else feel small. And they spot Marissa. Alone. Vulnerable. Perfect target. Now, watch how predators move. They circle. They don't rush in all at once. They test the waters. One makes a comment about her van. Ay, mira, that thing even legal on the road? Laughter from his friends. Another one eyes her up and down, saying something crude about her appearance, something that makes her skin crawl. The third one, the boldest, steps closer. You need some help there, mamacita. You look like you're struggling. But it's not an offer of help. It's a threat wrapped in false courtesy. Marissa's heart is pounding now. She grips the gas nozzle tighter, her knuckles turning white. She looks around desperately. The station is nearly empty. One old man inside paying for cigarettes, completely oblivious. A teenager with headphones on, lost in his own world. Nobody close enough to help. Nobody paying attention. She's alone with these wolves. One of them reaches toward her purse, dangling from her shoulder. Not quite grabbing it, but invading her space, testing her. What you got in there? Bet you got something nice hidden away, Verdad. More laughter. They're feeding off each other's cruelty now. each one trying to be more intimidating than the last. Marissa's mind is racing. She's thinking about her son, about how she needs to get home, about whether she should scream, run, fight, or freeze. Every option feels wrong. Every option feels dangerous. Her hands are shaking. Her breath is shallow. Inside, she's breaking, even though her face tries to stay strong. The men are getting louder, more aggressive. One kicks her van tire. Another mock stumbles into her, invading her personal space, breathing his stale breath near her face. And then, do you hear that? At first, it's distant. A low rumble like thunder on the horizon. Marissa notices it before the thugs do. She turns her head toward the highway entrance and her eyes go wide. The sound grows. Deeper, louder, more powerful. It's not thunder. It's engines. Motorcycle engines. And not just one or two. The thugs finally stop their harassment and turn toward the sound. Their smirks start to fade. Rolling into that gas station like a scene from a movie comes a formation of motorcycles. 1, 2, 5, 8, 10, maybe 12 of them. Chrome gleaming in that late afternoon sun. Engines roaring with a sound that vibrates in your chest. They move together, synchronized, powerful, impossible to ignore. The ground itself seems to tremble as they pull in, forming a line across the parking lot. These aren't weekend riders. These aren't dentists playing rebel on Sunday afternoon. These are real bikers. The kind with worn leather vests covered in patches. The kind with faces weathered by miles of highway and years of living by their own code. The kind that make you instinctively step back and show respect. Their presence changes everything instantly. The air gets heavier. The temperature seems to drop despite the desert heat. The leader dismounts first. He's a mountain of a man, easily 6'4", broad-shouldered, with a beard streaked with silver that reaches his chest. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scan the scene in seconds. He sees Marissa. He sees the three men surrounding her. He understands the situation immediately. His boots hit the pavement with authority. He doesn't rush. He doesn't need to. Without a single word, he and his brothers move forward, their leather creaking as they walk. They form a protective semicircle around Marissa, creating a human wall between her and the threats. The transformation in the thugs is instant and beautiful to watch. Their cocky grins evaporate. Their loud voices shrink to nervous mutters. One of them tries to laugh it off. "Hey, we were just talking to the lady. No problem here, just being friendly." But his voice cracks. His hands are up, defensive. The biker leader doesn't say a word at first. He doesn't have to. His eyes lock onto the main aggressor and the message is crystal clear. You have exactly 5 seconds to leave before this becomes the worst decision of your pathetic life. The silence is deafening. It stretches out thick with tension. One of the other bikers, arms covered in tattoos and scars, simply crosses his arms and tilts his head. The universal gesture of "try me." That's all it takes. The three thugs stumble backward, tripping over their own feet in their hurry to retreat. They mumble apologies that nobody asked for. They practically run to their beat-up car, doors slamming, tires squealing as they peel out of that parking lot like their lives depend on it. Which honestly they probably did. And just like that, the predators become prey. The hunters become the hunted. Justice served without a single punch thrown. Marissa's legs feel weak. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until it comes rushing out in a shaky exhale. The adrenaline flooding her system makes her hands tremble even more. She's safe now, but her body doesn't know it yet. The bikers remain in position, watchful, making sure those cowards are truly gone. Making sure no one else decides to be a hero and come back for round 2. Then the leader turns to face Marissa. She braces herself, expecting... what? Judgment? Pity? Some lecture about being more careful? But what she sees in his eyes is something completely different. It's respect. Recognition. The acknowledgement of one fighter to another. He gives her a single nod. Short, simple, but packed with meaning. "You're okay now. We've got your back." No word spoken, but the message received loud and clear. What happens next will make you believe in humanity again. One of the bikers, a stocky man with kind eyes, quietly pulls out his wallet. He doesn't make a show of it, doesn't announce it. Just slips a few folded bills into Marissa's hand and closes her fingers around them gently. Another biker, younger, with mechanical grease under his fingernails, walks over to her van. He pops the hood without asking, checks the engine, tightens a loose belt, adds some oil from a bottle he keeps in his saddlebag. A woman biker, tough as nails with braided grey hair, catches Marissa's eye and gives her a wink. "Been where you are, Hermana. Keep fighting." They work in silence, these leather-clad angels. No fanfare, no expectation of thanks. Just people helping people because it's the right thing to do. And that's when Marissa's tears come. Not from fear this time. From overwhelming, unexpected, beautiful kindness. For years she's fought every battle alone. Worked every shift exhausted. Paid every bill with anxiety. Raised her son with no partner to share the load. She'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone in her corner. To have someone say, "We've got you," and actually mean it. These strangers, these rough-looking bikers that society might judge or fear, they saw her, really saw her. Not as a charity case, not as a problem, but as a fellow human being worthy of dignity and support. The engines start rumbling again as the bikers prepare to leave. Their work here is done. Before he mounts his bike, the leader approaches Marissa one more time. He looks at her with those steel-grey eyes that have seen too much road and too much life to waste time on nonsense. His voice is gravelly but gentle. "Keep going, Senora. You're stronger than you know. That boy of yours is lucky to have you fighting for him." How did he know about her son? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just understood. Maybe every mother carries that look. "The road's going to stay hard," he continues. "But you've got what it takes. Don't you ever forget that." Then with a nod to his crew, the leader swings his leg over his Harley. The engines roar to life in a chorus that sounds like thunder and freedom and raw power all mixed together. They roll out as dramatically as they arrived, a line of chrome and leather disappearing down that highway, leaving nothing but dust and the echo of their engines. Marissa stands there, one hand still on the gas pump, the other clutching those folded bills. Her heart is still pounding, but it's different now. Not from fear, from gratitude, from hope, from the overwhelming realization that good people still exist. She looks at the money in her hand. Enough to fill her tank completely. Enough to buy those school supplies. Enough to breathe a little easier for the first time in months. But it's not really about the money, is it? It's about what it represents. It's about being seen, being valued, being protected, being reminded that you're not as alone as you thought. The world kept spinning that day. Cars continued pulling in and out of the gas station. The sun kept beating down. Life went on like nothing happened. But for Marissa, everything changed. She finished pumping her gas, hands steadier now. She got into her van, and for the first time in forever, she didn't hear the rattle as a sound of defeat. She heard it as the sound of a fighter still fighting, still moving forward, still refusing to quit. As she drove home to her son, she thought about those bikers, about how they could have just driven past, about how easy it would have been to mind their own business, to say "not my problem." But they didn't. They stopped. They stood up. They helped. And in doing so, they reminded her of something she'd almost forgotten. That kindness still exists. That courage matters. That strangers can become heroes in an instant if they choose to be. Now let me ask you something important. Do you believe moments like this still happen? Do you believe that in our modern world, with everyone buried in their phones and focused on their own problems, people will still stand up for strangers? I want you to think about that. Because here's the truth. These moments happen as often as we create them. They exist when we choose to see the person being harassed instead of looking away. When we choose to help instead of assuming someone else will. When we choose courage over convenience. Those bikers didn't have to stop. They were probably tired from riding all day. They probably had their own problems, their own destinations, their own reasons to just keep moving. But they stopped anyway. Because that's what real strength looks like. Not in dominating the weak, but in protecting them. Not in looking tough, but in being kind when kindness requires courage. The media loves to show us the worst of humanity. The violence, the cruelty, the selfishness. And yeah, that exists. We saw it in those 3 thugs who thought terrorizing a vulnerable woman was entertainment. But what happened next proves that good still outweighs evil. That heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather vests and ride Harleys. Sometimes they're covered in tattoos and look intimidating as hell. Sometimes the people society judges as dangerous are actually the most honorable humans you'll ever meet. Because here's what those bikers understood that many people forget. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. That woman at the gas station could be your mother, your sister, your daughter. That struggling person could be you on a different day. And when we recognize our shared humanity, when we see ourselves in the struggles of others, that's when magic happens. That's when ordinary people become extraordinary. So here's my challenge to you watching this right now. Be the biker. Not literally, unless motorcycles are your thing. But be the person who stops. Be the person who notices. Be the person who stands between the vulnerable and the threat, whether that threat is physical danger, cruel words, or just the overwhelming weight of life being unfair. You don't need to be big or tough or intimidating. You just need to be present. You need to be willing. Maybe it's standing up for someone being bullied. Maybe it's helping someone whose car broke down. Maybe it's just offering a kind word to someone who looks like they're drowning in their own thoughts. Small acts of kindness create ripples that spread farther than you'll ever know. Marissa went home that day changed. Not because her circumstances were different. Her bills were still high. Her van was still old. Her job was still exhausting. But her heart was different. She'd been reminded that she wasn't alone. That people cared. That goodness existed. And you know what she did with that feeling? She passed it on. The next week, when a new waitress started at the diner and was overwhelmed and crying in the back room, Marissa sat with her, shared her story, reminded her that tough days don't mean you're not tough enough. That's how it works. Kindness multiplies. One act inspires another until the whole world shifts just a little bit toward the light. Those bikers probably rode off and forgot about the whole thing by dinner. For them, it was just another stop on a long ride, just doing what decent people do. But for Marissa, it was everything. It was the moment she'll tell her son about when he's older. There was this day I thought I couldn't keep going, and then these angels showed up on motorcycles. And her son will grow up knowing that the world contains both darkness and light, both cruelty and kindness. And hopefully, he'll choose to be part of the light. That's the power of these moments. They echo through time. They change trajectories. They matter more than we can measure. Before we wrap this up, I want you to do something for me. Drop a comment below right now. Tell me about a time when someone helped you when you needed it most. Or tell me about a time you helped someone else. Share your story. Because every story of kindness is a small rebellion against cynicism. Every story reminds us what we're capable of. And if you've made it this far, if this story touched something in you, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel because we're building something special here. We're creating a community that refuses to let hope die, that celebrates the good, that recognizes the heroes among us. Your support matters. Every like, every share, every comment tells the algorithm that stories like this deserve to be seen, that kindness deserves attention, that we're hungry for content that lifts us up instead of dragging us down. The world will try to convince you that everyone is selfish, that no one cares, that looking out for number one is the only way to survive. But Marissa's story proves that's a lie. Humanity at its best shows up in the most unexpected ways. In the rumble of motorcycle engines. In the silent nod of respect between strangers. In the folded bills pressed into a shaking hand. In the simple act of standing between someone vulnerable and someone cruel. We all have the capacity to be those bikers. The question is, will we? Will we notice when someone needs help? Will we stop when it's inconvenient? Will we stand up when it's easier to look away? Because here's the beautiful truth. You don't know whose life you might change today. You don't know who's holding on by a thread, waiting for a sign that kindness still exists. Maybe you're that sign. Maybe today, you're the angel someone needs. So go out there and be the reason someone believes in humanity again. Be the unexpected hero in someone's terrible day. Be the person who stops, who sees, who helps. Be the rumble of hope on the horizon when someone thinks they're all alone. And remember Marissa standing at that gas station, surrounded first by fear and then by protection. Remember that shift from darkness to light. Remember that it only took a few people choosing to do the right thing. That's all it ever takes. A few good people. A moment of courage. A choice to care. The world needs more of that. The world needs more of you choosing to be that. So let's make a promise right now. Let's commit to being part of the solution. To adding more light than darkness. To standing up instead of standing by. Because if enough of us make that choice, the world changes. Story by story. Person by person. Moment by moment. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being the kind of person who seeks out stories that matter. Now go be someone's hero today. The world is waiting for you. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these stories. We're in this together, building a community that believes in the good that still exists. Until next time, keep your heart open, your eyes watching, and your courage ready. You never know when you'll be called to be someone's motorcycle riding angel. Stay kind out there. The world needs you.